Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight. At this time, I will call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, August 14th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kavey?
Here.
Trustee Crowley?
Here.
Trustee Gillis? Trustee Ivan?
Here.
Trustee Killily?
Here.
Trustee Kreis? Mayor LaRue?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence for our fallen veterans. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any members of any village commissions or committees here tonight? Yes, Jean.
Jean Bartaki, Beautification Committee, Safety Committee, and Keep Midlothian Beautiful. And friends of the library.
Yes, Cheryl.
Sharon Lipp, Technology Committee.
Resign, Keep Midlothian Beautiful, and friends of the library.
Terry Village Water Commission, Zoning Board, and Keep Midlothian Beautiful.
Joyce, Helen, Dita.
Joyce Holstein, friends of the library.
Okay. Any members of any local organizations here tonight? All right. Thank you so much. Before we get moving on to the meat of the meeting, we have a couple presentations tonight. I'd like to start off with one particular individual that works for the village and received an email from his boss. On July 3rd, 2019, around 2 o'clock p.m., Fred Schmidt, our building inspector, was at 14440 Trumbull and was looking into a property maintenance issue, and the resident there brought their 9-month-old baby girl out and ran up to Fred, and the child was clearly choking and in distress. They handed the child to Fred, who quickly assessed the situation, performed a Heimlich maneuver, cleared the airways of the baby, and most certainly saved the baby's life. So on behalf of the village, we would like to present Fred Schmidt with this certificate. So typically, these are given to police officers, firefighters, but we're pretty proud. I know Superintendent Weiner was pretty proud of it. So on behalf of the village, Fred Schmidt, in recognition of your outstanding assistance and quick response to a choking infant child and your performance of the Heimlich maneuver saving the child's life, please accept this certificate of appreciation. Sometimes it's good to be in the right place, right time, right, Fred, and saving a child's life. That's fantastic, and we're very proud of you. The other presentation we'd like to give out tonight, our certificate. I was contacted by Walgreens corporate, who informed me that they have an employee that just celebrated their 40 years working with Walgreens. Wow. Her name is Rose Vavrinek, and she currently works here in our Midlothian store, and we are very proud to have Rose continue to serve here in Midlothian. And I know that I've met a lot of people that have known you and gotten to know you over there at the store, and they're very, very happy with you. So continue to do what you're doing, and the Village of Midlothian thanks you for your service, and hopefully you'll continue to serve here in the Midlothian store for a long time. Would you mind coming forward? All I gotta say is 40 years. Present you the certificate of appreciation
Wow, thank you.
in recognition of your dedication, assistance, valuable contributions you have provided to our Midlothian residents. It says over the last 40 years, but the residents, or I'm sorry, the customers of Walgreens, they all thank you, so thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
So it was all right fun, huh? Thank you all for coming out, and thank you Walgreens for being in Midlothian for so very long, and I know a lot of people on the board use that store. So thank you all, and if that's all you came here for tonight, you could probably leave now. It's going to be
Except for Fred, he has to stay.
it's going to be an exciting meeting. It's going to be exciting. Okay, we will now move on to public comment. If you'd like to be made a matter of public record, please stand, state your name and address. Rita.
Hi, Rita Sarney, 148th and Kildare. I'm here tonight to address the board regarding something that was brought up at the August 7th meeting about recycling.
Yes.
And according to a study reported by the Global Citizen in May of 2018, the U.S. generates 258 million tons of garbage a year. SaveOnEnergy.com reports the average American tosses 4.4 pounds of garbage in the trash a day. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you multiply it by 323 million people in the U.S., that equals 728,000 pounds of trash daily. That's enough to fill 63,000 garbage trucks. Now, there are approximately 2,000 active landfills in the U.S., according to SWEEP, which is Solid Waste Environmental Excellence Protocol. They estimated that we will be out of landfill space in 18 years. And that is maybe sooner because this study was done before China changed their policy on accepting our trash. We need to educate and improve our recycling, not to just keep throwing things out. There isn't an endless spot to put it. And it is one of the focus points for Keep Midlothian Beautiful. In regards to, I know there was a comment made about Republic, and I just wanted to make sure people knew they have donated the dumpster for our cleanup day every year. And this year, when asked if they could help for the National Night Out, they did provide us with coloring books and crayons to pass out for the kids. You mentioned you spoke to other mayors, but only cited Posen. Let's have Midlothian be the environmentally responsible town and set an example instead of following in suit. Keep recycling.
Thank you, Rita.
Well, if I could say something too, I actually agree with you, Rita. I mean, I think recycling is really important. I did do some research, and I've been talking to some other trustees in some other towns, and one of the things that they have done to try to keep a balance is instead of doing a recycling, having the recycling can picked up every week, have it picked up bi-weekly, which might, I don't know what the ramifications are, but,
Ours is,
They do that.
I mean, I'm sorry, instead of bi-weekly, have it picked up once a month. That's what I meant to say. And so to me, if we do that and we can still recycle and then not have an extra cost, maybe that would be something we could look at. I don't know if that's practical. I don't know if everybody, if we need multiple dumpsters or what, but that's one of the things that people have told me.
I met with Ernie, our representative from Republic, on Tuesday for about an hour. Stressed the importance of the recycling program here in Midlothian, and the recycling program will continue. We have a little over 5 years left on our contract, and when we start negotiating the new contract, we will continue to have the recycling program, but most certainly there'll be an increase. At this time, he's looking at a 50 cent per house per month increase, but that's 5 years out. So the good news is that recycling will continue. He says Midlothian is one of the better communities and he cited you, Rita, and the Keep Midlothian Beautiful program and committee as being phenomenal stewards of the recycling program and educators, and that's why he believes that Midlothian is one of the better communities that they service. The one town that I did cite was Posen. They are not. So they're no longer recycling at this time. What he also explained to me is that their recycling truck drivers, they have video cameras where the trash is dumped, and they will monitor that as they do recycling. And if they see something, a resident that is dumping bad stuff, they will communicate with that resident and let them know that they're recycling bad stuff. And if they continue to recycle bad stuff, they will shut that resident off from recycling, which makes it better for all the other residents that do good recycling. So that was great news. Again, Ernie was just overwhelmed. He came to one of the meetings and he was just overwhelmed at all of you and your passion and your drive. So recycling will continue. It'll continue at its regular rate here in Midlothian for at least the next 5 years, and I think that's great news. The other part we talked about was the gas tax, the state-imposed, the new state-imposed gas tax. Again, we talked for a long time. They will not automatically impose that on the Village of Midlothian until the contract expires, but he did ask me to bring to the board, ask the board if they would consider a 15-cent per household per month increase. I didn't. I just got that information today, so we will discuss that next week at committee.
We have 5,000 households, right?
55.
Roughly, give or take. Okay.
So all good news. You guys keep doing what you're doing because clearly it's working. And again, good news. Recycling will continue in Midlothian for the extended period of time. So thank you for everything you guys do. Anyone else? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Dorothy Kowalski. I live at 14427 Kostner. I'm here to publicly thank the Village of Midlothian and particularly the Building Department for their help with a recent court case. So I just wanted to publicly thank the village and the Building Department for their help.
Thank you so much. That
Okay.
means a lot. Sometimes the building department doesn't get an. They get recognition, but.
There he is. There he is.
But thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Joyce Holstein. I live at 5108 148th Street, Midlothian. I just have a question that I heard that you can't put signs in the parkway anymore, and I was thinking about having a garage sale, and I was wondering if you can put a garage sale sign in the parkway. If not, I'm not having one.
You first have to get a permit to have the
Yeah,
garage
I know
sale, but Superintendent Weiner would be happy to answer that question.
And you can have signs in the parkway on your property. You want to put signs in the parkway on somebody else's property, you have to get permission.
Okay.
And if you want to leave it up for a day, like a village or some sign, you can do that.
Okay.
Some people try to put out, 4x8 sheet of plywood in the parkway that blocks the view from cars and stuff, you can't.
Okay. Okay, but I'm good about picking them up, so I will pick them up as soon as it's over.
Jean, do you have something?
Say relax, the best for last. Okay, I have. Okay, I have some things from the Beautification Committee that I'd like to share. The Beautification would like to acknowledge that Mr. Chuck Hillier gave us a wonderful donation, and a very nice donation, so we really thank him for that. These little plaques that I have here will be going on all the flower boxes. that were donated by the businesses in town. These plaques were donated by Mr. Killily. We're working, you're gonna not be happy with this, but that's okay. Our projects right now, we're working on Hanson Park and Christmas on the green. So that'll be on our next meeting agenda in September when we have a meeting. Tomorrow, we're having a little celebration for our local gardeners that participated in the garden walk and in did all the Midlothian signs. And we're looking for ideas and suggestions how to spruce up the village green, the gazebo area, all the flower beds over there. So if anybody has any ideas or suggestions, we're very open to accept them. And I was going to talk about the parking lot sign, but I'll leave that for another day. The wall that's going to be built, we were wondering why. Not a nice little white fence like we thought we were going to get, but a big brick wall. So we were just wondering why. But that's another question for another day.
But if you want to bring it up.
There was a suggestion that our landscaping company offered to us as an alternative to a space that requires a lot of upkeep, and it's clearly needs to be replaced, and that was the suggestion that our landscaping company offered.
That area is upkept by a village resident.
Right, but I'm saying the wood fence, that's going to have to come down.
Yeah,
and,
that is falling apart. Sandy has,
yeah, Sandy Cortez has spent a lot of time over there.
she ties it back up every so often.
She makes, a lot of you make bad things look good, so, like I said, that was just an idea. Now it's going to give a better protection to that area, the parking lots. So
people could hide behind the wall and do no good, like steal the tires off cars over there, or...
No, there's cameras. There's cameras. And
The building department truck parks there, so I hope that's not the case.
But that happened over, remember when all those vehicles got knifed over in the parking lot over there a couple years ago by someone?
yeah, they caught them and arrested them.
Yeah.
Because of the cameras.
I mean, just saying, just in case. I think it will kind of...
Anyone else? Bob?
My name is Robert Smith, and I live at 14309 Kilbourne. And I just want to take an opportunity, and I think I speak for everyone in Bremen Heights, to thank the village board, Public Works, and all the contractors that gave us such beautiful streets in Bremen Heights. It's long overdue, and it's a pleasure just to drive up and down them now and not have to worry about bumps and holes. And I especially want to recognize the fact that come school year now, we're going to have children that maybe will be able to walk down the street and people won't be dodging all these holes and all these cracks in the street and endangering the life of the kids coming down Kilbourne especially. So with that, I thank you all, and I think it's a wonderful improvement to the village. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
We were very fortunate to receive some motor fuel tax from the state this year, and Superintendent Sperry does a great job of auditing all of our roads in town to find the worst ones, and we know we still have some bad ones out there, and over time we will get to every one of them. But by that time we'll have to start over, right? Tina.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed in the fact that the board feels it's necessary to spend over $40,000 on a sign. You can't start the flood project for Belly Button Hill, but yet you can put $40,000 up for a sign. I mean, I think that is ridiculous. When you were running for election, that was one of the things you were going to do was the flood projects. And I'm sorry if somebody has to get up there and change the letters on the sign we've got, but I don't think it'll kill anybody. They're being paid to do that. And I think that this flood project needs to be started. I don't think we need to keep telling people that we're gonna do things that we do not make any effort to do. And if you aren't going to do it, then I think you ought to notify the people up there that you don't care whether they flood or not. That you don't care and you aren't gonna do anything. Because it's very disappointing when you say you'll do something and then everything else is more important. You're talking about starting a new building. Well, if you're starting a new building and you've got a building, I can see repairing the old building for necessary repairs. But I can't see buying and doing the remodeling and all this stuff if you're going to put up a new building anyway. Let's use our common sense and spend this money like we would spend it if it belonged to you. Because it doesn't belong to you to just blow. And I don't care who it is. You tell me that if this was your house, that you would be spending this kind of money on a sign. Because I don't think you would. And I think you all know that it is not right. It's very, very dishonest what you've done with the people over there.
I'm speaking for myself. I won't speak for the rest of the board, but I'm very sensitive to everyone in town that has endured the heartache and the hardship and the extreme loss of money through the flooding. We've directed Superintendent Sperry to put money in his budget to address all of the other flood areas in town, to at least start the study. Belly Button Hill is one of them. Engineer Nagel has also been directed to begin the process of the study of Belly Button Hill, as well as Jolly Homes and Bremen Heights. We are moving on it. Money has been allocated to do it. The sign is not the same. It comes out of another part of the budget. So they're two different things. We're not taking money from one project to do another project. They're separate projects. So I'm sorry you feel the way you feel, but I'm acutely aware of what goes on in town, and I feel terrible for the people that fled. So anyone else? Okay. At this time, I'll close the floor to public comment, and we'll move on to tonight's consent agenda. On tonight's consent agenda, we have number 1, approval of ordinance 2036, providing for the issuance of not to exceed $10 million general obligation bonds, Series 2019 of the Village of Midlothian, Cook County, Illinois, and for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on said bonds. Number 2, approval of ordinance 2037, providing for issuance not to exceed $2 million general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019A, and not to exceed $1.5 million general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019B, and not to exceed $8 million general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019C, and for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest of said bonds. Number 3, approval of resolution 19-0814-A, finding continuing need for confidentiality of certain closed session minutes. Number 4, approval to execute agreement between the Village of Midlothian and Property Registration Champions, LLC, doing business as Pro Champs, which is the vacant property and foreclosure registry contract. Number 5, approval for Roy Erickson Landscaping to remove existing stockade fence and landscaping and to install new double-sided wall and minor landscaping for the Village Hall South parking lot not to exceed $4,076. Number 6, approval of committee meeting minutes for July 17, 2019. Number 7, approval of board meeting minutes for July 24th, 2019. And number 8, approval of the list of bills. Is there any item any trustee would like off of tonight's consent agenda?
Mayor, 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Anyone else?
Mayor, number 4.
Number 4. Anyone else? So I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda without number 1, number 2, and number 4. So we are approving the consent agenda with the resolution for the confidentiality certain closed session minutes, approval of Roy Erickson to remove existing stockade fence and landscaping and to install a new double-sided wall, and minor landscaping for the Village Hall South parking lot not to exceed $4,076. Number 6, and 6, 7, and 8. Committee meeting minutes for July 17, board meeting minutes for July 24, and approve a list of bills. I make a motion. Anyone?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Kaveny.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. So let's go back to, I'd like a motion to approve ordinance 2036, providing for the issuance of not to exceed $10 million general obligation bonds, series 2019 of the Village of Midlothian, Cook County, Illinois, and for a levy of direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on said bonds.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Mayor, I think we have the bond people here tonight, and I think we should hear from them before we approve this bond. I think they came to us to talk to us a little bit and answer any questions. Is that right? I'm not...
Just answer questions.
You were here for questions?
Is
Okay.
there any questions?
Well, I do. then. Okay. For number 1? Okay, so let's see. So just to refresh my memory, how long do we have to spend the money to start spending the money?
You have any questions?
Please.
May.
By the way, introduce my colleague also. So there is spend down requirements for this bond issue that takes 2 to 3 years, that you will have to spend a certain percentage. This is more of a council
Right.
question.
Right.
But you'll have to, 15 at a certain period and then 85, I think, within 3 years, but I can give you a date.
How much longer do we have to spend the rest of it, do you know, or not?
Now, we'll separate the 2 items. The first agenda item for the $10 million.
Yes.
The refunding will be used immediately to save the village money.
Yes.
The spend down requirements, actually, in front of the microphone, I'd like bond counsel to come in, but it's, I think, 3 years to spend down and have the reasonable expectation to spend those funds.
Okay, so am I lost here? The first item is for the new bonds?
It's for the new money.
For the new money, okay. All right, so also, I don't think there was any period in there when stated that when we can refund or redeem the bonds we're going to issue now. That won't happen until it's done?
Correct. So with the refunding, agenda item 2, the
Right.
bonds would be issued, you'd get funds, and go into an escrow for, what do we assume, 30 days? 30 days, escrow would liquidate, and it would go to pay off your bonds.
But maybe for the new bonds, like normally you can refund them or redeem them after a certain amount of years.
Correct.
But we won't know what that is until it's issued.
We price the bonds, but typically in the municipal bond market, it's 10 years. And all your other transactions done in the past were about 10 years.
Okay, all right. And my last question on that would be, it does have something about that tax abatement that, I'm not sure I understand that, but can we abate any part of that bond levy for this?
We can.
Because it looks like it's got wording in there, it shouldn't do anything to prevent funding of the bond. I think that's what it amounts to.
Right. How the ordinance is worded is, what you've typically done is abate, and Maggie, please jump in if I'm incorrect. You have funds on hand, you use other revenues of the village, and you abate the tax.
Right.
So the residents see a tax.
Right.
And that's how this will be structured, because as we've discussed before, you have 2 series of bonds falling off, the 08, or 9 and 13 are falling off.
Right.
We're going to put this new bond issue in the footprint of those, so then the residents won't see increase, but that will be abated by the taxes that Maggie uses to abate the other bonds.
So we can still abate, it doesn't, I guess I'm just concerned, it doesn't have to be a direct levy. It can be the same system we're using now, whatever we have to.
And they're automatically levied for at the county level through the ordinance, and we abate
Okay.
whatever we have the funds for.
Okay, same, whatever we're doing now, whatever extra money we have on hand. Okay, all right. Then that's all I have on item 1.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Ivan? Aye. Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Kami?
Aye.
Trustee Killiely?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I am looking for a motion to approve ordinance 2037, providing for issuance not to exceed 2 million general obligation refunding bond, Series 2019A, and not to exceed, did I read that right? Yes, Series 219A, and not to exceed 1.5 million general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019B, and not to exceed $8 million general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019C, and for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Okay, so am I crazy here, but I'm looking at the ordinance number, it says the exact same wording as number 1. An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $10 million general obligation bonds.
What?
I mean, I understand what the,
Is this the wrong ordinance? Oh, yep.
yeah, it has the same exact wording.
The wrong, is the
So
wrong
we don't
document?
have, we don't
is the
have
wrong
the other, we
document
don't have the
attached?
other document. At this,
I have 2 different ones.
Yeah, and on my iPad, it looks like the ordinance document that's attached for item number
Right.
2.
it's the same as number 1. The wording on it, and the wording on the motion.
The wording on the motion is
that's right.
correct. It's
Yeah,
the refunding,
I
but we don't have the refunding, we don't have the refunding
My
ordinance.
own opinion is I wouldn't vote for this right at
Yeah.
this, unless I have the document in front of me. The ordinance. Well, how about everybody else? You know, at this point, at this point, I wouldn't be able to vote for this. I think this is a little, you know, I understand we talked about this before, but I would like to see the papers and know actually what is in the papers and have some time to look at them before I actually vote for them.
Why is it the same? I guess my
Because it was a mistake. Yeah, it isn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be what Clerk Moskal just gave me, but I don't think we should approve this right now without having 48 hours to just look at it, just to make sure there's nothing we don't understand.
Can we table it till next week then? Put it on the agenda for approval for next week?
If, just to clarify, if that's the board's prerogative, it most certainly can do that. But if the document can be produced and given to the board, there's nothing that keeps you from voting on it tonight if you're comfortable attending. I understand Trustee Khalidi may not be, but you may vote on it if you see the document tonight. If you can make a copy of it, pass it out to the board, and they can look at it. The issue is whether the board is voting on a specific document. Obviously, you're correct, Trustee Kelly. The board can't vote on something that has been noticed up and provided that is not what you're voting on. So you need the actual document to vote on it.
48 hours in advance.
Well, you got 48 hours of notice of what is on the agenda. There's nothing keeping you from it, except for our traditional operating rules.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that nothing under the municipal code keeps you from voting on it tonight, as long as the chairman and the clerk can verify what you're voting for.
Stefan, can you tell me what does this do for our interest rates?
Well, In complete honesty, I don't think that really impacts timing because we have to go through the process to do this deal. And we've discussed it in a committee for grading our insurance. So if this is a week delay, I really see this fundamentally impacting. And this is the refunding item that saves village money, so I don't think it will impact your interest rates.
Okay.
So then I'd like to see have a motion to postpone this item until next week, which would be Wednesday, August 21st.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Point of order, don't we have to remove or finish our motion to vote on it first? Or retract
Does he
it?
have to retract his motion?
Yes, I believe that we were in the discussion part of it right now.
that's right.
So there needs to be a motion to effectuate removing it from the discussion and to vote on it later.
Whatever motion you just said is fine.
Yeah, okay.
A motion,
I'll second it.
okay, a motion to postpone.
Okay. Roll call. Motion to postpone item 2 of tonight's consent agenda until next week, Wednesday, August 20th.
Another point of order, could we have it specific as of next week?
I'm making it specific as of next week.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Cagney?
Aye.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Killian?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I am looking for a motion to approve, approval to execute agreement between the Village of Midlothian and Property Registration Champions, LLC, doing business as Pro Champs, which is the vacant property and foreclosure registry contract.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Thank you. Yes, this afternoon, I apologize, I sent an email to Attorney Valadez and Superintendent Weinert with a couple of comments, and then I sent my email onto the board very late today, like at 5 o'clock, so I do apologize. I did have a couple of questions in this document that I was concerned about before we voted on it. I'm not sure if we have to go back to Pro Champs to negotiate these, or if my questions can be satisfied. But on page 1 in the fourth whereas, it states, PRC will provide an electronic registration project that is cost-free and revenue neutral. What does that mean? Because to my understanding, this is not a net revenue neutral contract.
Trustee, the reason that that language is in there is because in these new fees and new registration requirements in various fields of municipal law, the court test of whether it's valid and whether you can do that sometimes depends on whether the fee reflects the cost to the village. So what that language in the whereas states is that the Village of Midlothian has made a finding that the $250 that it gets twice a year does not cover or does not provide a profit to the village, but merely reflects the cost to the village to implement the ordinance. So in other words, you as a board are finding that this is what it costs you to be able to attend to the ordinance for vacant properties and defaulted properties.
Okay. All right, thank you for that understanding. Next item is paragraph 1C. There's a comment in there that states that should there be a fee required for public official record data acquisition integral to the performance and the scope of the work, blah, blah, blah. Required under the terms, those charges will be deducted up to $200 per registerable property. Now, I don't recall when the gentleman was here from Pro Champs who gave us the...
Standard. Standard.
Yes, when he was here, when he explained how the process worked, I don't recall that he told us that there was going to be any cost for any data acquisition. And I'm not sure what record data he would have to pay to acquire. He explained to us that everything is done electronically and that all of the staff for Pro Champs could access all of the information they needed via recorded documents online from the county.
That is the overwhelming number of cases. I believe that'll be the case. But I believe that that provision is in there, is simply to state that should there be some kind of nominal fee, maybe a copying fee from the recorder of deeds or whatever, typically a fee that may cost $15 or $20. That if that is essential to be able to contact the registrable property, then they will go ahead and expend it and deduct it from the village portion of the fee. So you are correct, there should not be, and I think he was being completely honest, there should not be any fees, but there could be copying fees for deeds and other things like that, that would be substantially less than $200.
But who put in this change of $200? Was that your change or
That was
Sam's
my change, because without it, you're correct, that if, and I'm not saying they would do this, but if there became a situation in which they had to hunt down a particular property and it went over $250, well then, that would wipe out the registration fee for the village.
Well, can we lower this $200 to something else?
Yes, we could.
I mean, and does Stan know that we put this change in here? Did he agree to this?
They did. I guess I sent it at that level because in any scenario that I can think of, that would be the maximum amount. In a situation in which there was a problem property, some circumstances in which, a long history, ongoing, that there could possibly be that much. But in my opinion, I can't come up as I sit here right now with any kind of cost that would be integral, as the provision says, record data acquisition integral to the performance of the scope of the work required under the terms and the provisions of the contract. I can't see how
So
there could
the
be
original language read that there was no cap on the fee, so you're putting in this cap?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I think the $200 cap is kind of high. I would prefer to see it much lower, because I was not anticipating we were going to have to pay any kind of fee at all. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it. In paragraph number 3, this has what I would refer to as an evergreen renewal clause. It just renews every year with 30 days notice. I'm not a fan of evergreen clauses, and the board had this come up a couple other times in some other contracts, and I thought that we had agreed that the village should not enter into any document, any contractual document that has an evergreen clause in it for renewals.
Definitely. Unless you got a big calendar, so that's going to renew.
That is completely up to the board's discretion. I think what the intent of pro-champs is that if the relationship works out, the village is getting value, then it would just continue in 1-year increments and we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Right, well, the problem, for any municipality, I don't think that's a good idea, because if you have board that turns over, you have staffing that turns over, it's just not a good idea to have a contract sitting in a file cabinet that's going to renew every year, and if you don't have personnel, if your personnel changes and you've got somebody new in the village that's not aware of this contract and not aware that it's got an evergreen clause every year, and there's only, it's the 30-day prior notice is kind of a short time frame. I would prefer 60 days. 60 days, especially if we have to live with this automatic renewal.
Well, in the 60
If pro-champs insists that it's an automatic renewal, 30 days is...
Well, the 60 days would actually make it worse for the village, because if we miss 45 days out, then it would automatically renew.
But guess what? Either party can terminate this. So if it's 30 days, it's worse for the village if pro-champs decides they're going to cancel.
I don't know that the village would want to keep a vendor who wants to cancel a relationship with us, and that's why I left it at 30 days and thought it was reasonable, because if anyone is going to run afoul of the deadline for notice with regard to renewing, I think it's going to be the village, and we would want it as short as possible so that we could, if someone says 2 weeks before time, we don't want this pro-champ contract anymore, we're not bound by that.
Well, I still am not in favor of the automatic renewal. I just don't think, as a matter of good business practice, it's not a good business practice.
The only thing that I would say with regard to the automatic renewal of this one is, again, this is not a cash contract for the village. The village is not paying anything for this, under any circumstances.
Yeah, but if they don't do what they promise, then, I totally agree, because I think we have situations every 4 years or whatever that, things change, and trying even for the mayor or the village clerk to keep up with everything that happened over the last 4 years is very difficult. I totally agree with Trustee Cavaney that the Evergreen clause should go, and I'm not even thrilled about the 2 years from effective date.
Well-
I'd really like to get one, but they want that, they probably want that. I'm
No,
not sure.
trustee, if you prefer 1 year, that actually,
I'm okay with 2 years. Because I think it's going to take us that long to see,
Okay, to get
to get it up and
speed.
going, and to get up to
other
speed.
municipalities are split. Some want the
Yeah.
first contract to be 1 year so they can see how it works out. So we would not be the only one moving that 2 year to a 1 year on the initial term.
Yeah, I think it'll take us that long to get up and going and get everybody comfortable with it, to see how it
So
works.
do we need to postpone this to get?
I don't know,
these questions?
Superintendent, what's your opinion on the term? 1 year or 2 year?
I think push time out 1 year.
1 year? Okay, all right then.
Get stuck for 2 years.
Well, yeah, okay, short as possible would be better in case
Okay,
something
then let's
blows
change
up.
the initial term to 1 year.
Do you have more questions on this? Should we postpone this?
And we'll, hold on, and we'll leave it at 60 days. Yes, I believe I have one more. Paragraph 7, there are just a couple of typos that I noted that I sent you. Paragraph 9, I added the village's phone number. I was a little confused by the first statement in paragraph 11. It says the village acknowledges prior to this agreement registering properties governed by the original ordinance. The statement's a little confusing. The original ordinance, the village was registering vacant properties only, not defaulted properties. So I think that statement may need to have some clarification.
I don't think that this is standard language to say that what we already have registered would be turned over to them. I don't think that ProChamps has any misunderstanding, or we, as to what we're talking about in that provision. It's simply to say that now that we're taking over, you've got to tell us what those properties are. Which ones are they?
Yeah,
Okay.
first line.
And I would just say that the reason that we didn't include the phone number is because sometimes what I want to do with the contracts for the village, for the exact reasons that you've stated, trustee, which is that we have turnover in personnel, that we do everything we can to have every contract that goes out to a vendor that requires notification to us in writing, all the time. And matter of fact, don't even give them the option of anything other than in writing. We called you, we left a message with someone over there. We don't even want to open the door for that. But we can leave that number in there because they have
Yeah,
it.
but that's not that leaving a message for anybody isn't binding anyone to a contract. So, well, that's fine. You could take it out if you want.
No,
That one
we'll
doesn't
leave it
matter.
in, but
Okay, my last question was on number 13, publicity. PRC may include village's name and general case study information within PRC's marketing material and website. Do we want to allow this type of marketing? Do we want to allow this vendor to include the village's information, any information or a case study here in town in their marketing?
it was very helpful to have the information from the other municipalities in Illinois that use this vendor. And there were some, I think, over 40 of them allowed that. And to be able to see on their website which ones had it, to look at the other ordinances was helpful to us. But
Hey, I don't have a problem.
that's something up to the board
village.
to decide, though.
Does anybody else have an issue? I was just raising the question because I didn't know what the village's policy was with regards to publicity. I've never seen this in any of our other village contracts before.
I'm fine with it.
Well, I'm willing to entertain the changes of 60 days and 1 year to my vote. If that would,
Well, after the
Evergreen clause has
conversation,
to go.
huh?
The Evergreen clause has to go too.
Yeah.
I would personally like to postpone this and see it in writing
Well-
for next week.
I don't think that pro champs would have an issue in reworking that automatic language. I can't imagine that they would. If you want to postpone it for...
Will you amend your motion to postpone this item until next week, Wednesday, August 21st?
Sure. I will make.
Who had the second?
I'll second.
Roll call on postponing this item.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Kavney?
Aye.
Trustee Killy?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to trustee business. Trustee Kreis couldn't make it, but she wanted to let everyone know that the Keep Midlothian Beautiful Committee is meeting tomorrow at 12 p.m. here in the chambers. Trustee Evan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to bring the board's attention, next Tuesday at 5:30 is our finance meeting. Also want to add what Jean has talked about, the Beautification Committee. We are giving out our certificates of appreciation and such tomorrow to the people from the Garden Walk and various other individuals and institutions throughout the village. And that will be at 7 o'clock at the Historical Society. And that's it for me.
When?
7 o'clock.
When?
Thursday.
Tomorrow?
Yes.
7:15.
All right, thanks.
We'll be serving cake and coffee? Is that what we got planned, Jean?
Cake, juice, water.
Oh, that's it for me.
Trustee Gillis couldn't make it tonight. Trustee Cav.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any building department updates today. However, I do reserve the right to ask a question.
I think you've already exercised that tonight. Trustee Killy?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Trustee Crowley?
Thank you, sir. Just one thing on my agenda tonight. We discussed it last week. I sent the agreement for Ring to the attorney, I believe it was last week after we received it. He did review it. I don't want to speak for him, but his only request, Chief Delaney, was to make sure that confidential information, all personnel understands how to handle confidential information that might have access to this. I did send it to the board for everyone else's review. I believe it was last week as well. So I am making a motion to approve the contract with Ring and our police department.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Crowley?
Aye.
Trustee Ivan?
Aye.
Trustee Kavney?
Aye.
Trustee Killy?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Anything else? Trustee Crowley?
That's it, sorry.
Okay. Chief Hotwagner?
Just one thing, I got the flyers up here. Mr. Kelly has his event for the Chairman's Forum for Board of Health, which is this weekend, Saturday. All the information on the flyer, so to raise awareness for suicide prevention, PTSD for first responders and veterans, as well as addressing bullying. It starts here in Crestwood. You ride on a motorcycle with, or you drive in a car, and goes through 3 different stops and ends up at New Lakes, American Legion. If anyone wants any information.
It's a great cause. Thank you for doing that for us.
No problem. That's all.
And not to be too early, but the pancake breakfast, the Midlothian Firefighters Association pancake breakfast will be October 13th. Don't forget, I'll keep it in my folder here and we'll talk about it every week. Chief Delaney. Superintendent Weinert.
A couple things. The plans for the Park District building have been approved. The only thing that has not been approved, waiting for sign off, is MWRD. The Park District can start, they put the silk fence up today. So they're going to start doing the demo and apply for the permits to get that project started. There's always been talk about the Hardee's building. That building has been bought by a place out of St. Charles called Just Kebabs. They've been about remodeling that building, so you can see them over there. A few years ago, KFC submitted plans for remodel and SAT. They have resubmitted. They're going to remodel Kentucky Fried Chicken in order to be the new corporate image. So that's going on. Plans were submitted for another house to be built on St. Joseph Court. There was a fire at a house on, was it 148th and Hamlin? Keeler. Keeler? Yeah, 148th and Keeler. That demo permit's been approved by the county. That house is going to come down, and the owner is going to build a new house in that location, which is going to be a big improvement over the one that's like 90 years old. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Superintendent Sperry?
Just a quick update on the Natalie Creek project. We had our bi-weekly meeting today to work on the Costner Cart Culvert, which begun. It's expected to be completed approximately 4 to 6 weeks. And then they'll move to Kilbourne and start working on that culvert. And we have a scheduled meeting with the residents on Colmar Avenue at 4 p.m. tomorrow to discuss the upcoming work on that one. Because it's a dead end, it's going to be logistically challenging for these folks to get in and out of the driveway, so we're going to provide some temporary parking, so we're going to let them answer any questions or concerns they have. And that's it.
Did Deputy Clerk Kalaki reach out to you this afternoon about the call she got from Mr. DuBois?
Yes.
DuBois? Okay.
I spoke to the gentleman.
What work was going on in Kenton? The utility work?
Kenton?
Didn't it say Kenton?
Kenneth.
Kenneth.
That's the last parcel that the MWRD couldn't get a hold of anybody to purchase it. So they're going to...
Condemnation.
Condemnation.
Yeah.
So it's, you probably saw the email I sent you today.
Yeah.
They had an amendment to the IGA.
Right.
And got that explained to me, sent it to me today, so we just got to get that approved.
That'll be
They
it.
need that for legal reasons. And this guy was an appraiser for that property, so he came in and had all kinds of questions. He's asking the wrong guy, and it's on WRD,
Right.
so I forwarded him.
So he doesn't work for the,
He's working for the law firm that's representing MWRD.
okay, gotcha.
Tied to all that, and so they have to answer those questions.
The amendment will be on the agenda for next week. Engineer Nagel?
Mayor, I got one item here. I'll explain how the bids went for the sanitary sewer televised cleaning. On July 30th at 10:01 a.m., the bid bids for sanitary sewer cleaning. And the bids are as follows. Vision Sewer was $102,469.05. National Power Routing, $106,143.25. Michaels Corporation, $110,722.25. And Sheridan Plumbing, $126,258.75. The engineer's estimate is $130,928.75. It's approximately the low bid. Vision Sewer is approximately 22% beneath the engineer's estimate. Bids were checked, they were competitive, and they're mathematically corrected. Therefore, making a recommendation to award a contract for the 2019 sanitary sewer televising cleaning to the low bidder, Vision Sewer, in the amount of $102,469.05. So, a couple things occurred on this project, which I want to compliment your staff on, Mayor and Board, is that there was a bid. It was questionable whether it came in late or not. Bids were received up front, and it was really a matter of seconds. It could have been a half a minute going either direction. What we did is Mr. Sperry and Ms. Kalaki contacted your corporation counsel. We explained everything from front to end. We went to a separate room and closed the door. We didn't open any bids. We had 3 bids that came in, and we had 1 bid that was questionable. It was on that time. And after a conversation with the corporation counsel, it was decided that being so close from the time from walking from the front to the back, we felt that was an on-time bid. That turns out that wasn't the low bidder. That was the third bidder on this list. But if it was the low bidder, we didn't want to preclude the village from awarding the contract to save the money to the low bidder on it. So it's okay.
All right, any experience you've had with Visit Sewer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Sperry works on, they're local, they're a Ridgeview contractor, they're one of the biggest sewer televising contractors in the Chicagoland. So those things are going to
Nice.
work out fine for us.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Treasurer Britton?
Nothing to report this year.
Deputy Clerk Kalaki?
I have nothing to report.
Attorney Valadez?
Just if I don't recall that I did inform the board that the village was dismissed as a defendant regarding the property driveway runoff case that has been raised multiple times here at board meetings. That dismissal comes with prejudice, and we will not be involved in that anymore. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Just want to remind everyone, the Bremen High School Field House grand opening is tomorrow, starting at 4. Everyone is invited. And then I think it's time for me to mention again that the 2020 census is right around the corner, and we need to start working on that. And that I have appointed Trustee Ivan as the ambassador for the Village of Midlothian. Clerk Mouse, may I have anything?
Just one item, and that was an announcement that Joyce shared about a shred day this Saturday for Midlothian and Oak Forest residents, sponsored by Senator Vavrinek. I don't have a time or a location. I don't know if you recall any of that, Joyce, but
I have it at home.
we'll hunt it down and make sure something gets on the website about it. We did not receive any notice about this one, so thank you for sharing that. That's all I have.
Sorry, I reserve my right to redirect. Trustee Kelly asked me to, of course, he sent it to me upside down.
Yes, I did.
Come one, come all to the all-class Bremen Alumni Picnic. This event is the first of its kind. All past Bremen students, all 66 years, and their families are invited. Represent your class, bring your picnic basket, meet up with old friends. It's noon until 11 p.m.?
Yep.
Wow.
At your house, Don?
No, it's at Little Park.
Hold on, now it just got bigger. Saturday, September 21st, 2019, obviously, at Memorial Park, and they'll be using Radio Lodge as well. Everyone, do you have to go to, I mean, that's a pretty cool event, so I know the guy that's kind of organizing it, used to work with him, so. Stephen, isn't Terry Stevens helping out, organizing that?
Yes.
Kind of what,
Mr. Stewart.
yeah. So, come on out. I'll mention it again as we get closer. I'll get it right side up next time. Maria, when you print it out for me, can you print it out right side up?
Sure, no problem.
Will there be anything special for 40-year, the 40-year journey?
40-year reunion?
Yeah, that's the ship.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I forgot one thing. Do we have an idea when we'll get, it's very quick, do we have an idea when we'll get the draft of the newsletter?
Soon, the proof person hasn't given us the proofs yet.
Okay.
It'll be soon.
And can I just mention, Tom Myatt, our longtime health inspector, wonderful guy, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. His brother passed away over the weekend, so you could keep him and his family in their thoughts. So, and that's all I have. So, seeing there's no further business coming for the board, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Hey.
Meeting adjourned.
Get the word out.